So I'm gonna try and go and speed up a little bit, only because I think some of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be fairly easy to understand. And I want to get us through 2 chapters tonight. So I want us, if at any time you all feel like we're not getting this, yell at me. But I think the first section of it's going to be fairly easy because, last week we talked about kind of who we are, getting to know who we are, whether we're a questioner, a rebel, an obliger, as Marcia, obliger, or a, what's the fourth one?
Rebel.
Questioner.
She said rebel?
Yeah.
Rebel,
Questioner,
obliger,
An upholder.
upholder. Yes. Oh my gosh. I was sitting there going, okay. So those, there you go. So those are just general characteristics of who we are. So what we're going to talk about initially is tonight is some very little more distinct characteristics of who we are that are pretty much hardwired into who we are. And I think you're going to be able to, the reason I was going to, the document I was trying to send to you is if you run into a problem understanding who you are, where you fall, those are some questions that you could like sit and ask yourself and it'll become pretty clear. So I'll just send that there. It's not a huge document. It's just like questions asking, do you get up early? Do you like to do this? Do you like to do that? And as you answer those questions, you'll figure out kind of who you are. So what we're going to talk about are what's called distinctions, things that make us distinct. Now, it doesn't make us unique. You notice I didn't say unique, I said distinct. And it plays a big role in how we form our habits. So I may go through these pretty quickly, but I think if you're like me, you can pretty much pick out who you are. So the first question is, are you a lark, L-A-R-K, or an owl? Now in this one, most fall somewhere in between, but there are those people who are extremes, Pastor Romel. Did I just do that? Because once you hear this, you're going to know. A lark goes to bed early and rises early. And research shows that larks are happier, healthier, and more satisfied than owls, and that the world favors larks. I'm a lark. Owls, Pastor Romel, they go to bed late and they get up late. And it's hardwired, so it's pointless to change. So if you know someone who is one or the other, like it amazes me, and I'm going to use Pastor Romel and First G as examples. They're two complete opposites. And my sister and her husband were the same way. He was an owl, she's a lark. I don't know how they do it, but that's the way it is. You're either an owl or a lark. Most people kind of fall in between based on how they work, what their work schedule is, but you kind of know if you're a morning person or you would rather stay up late. Okay, the next one is, are you a marathoner, a sprinter, or a procrastinator? The marathoner likes to work at a slow, steady pace. They're not motivated by deadlines. The minute they know they have an assignment, they start on it right away. They're the people you hated in school because you get a term paper and they'd have it done within the first week. You got the whole term to do it, and they're a marathon. They start it immediately. They very often finish everything early because they want to work on it for a longer period of time, but they also start it immediately the minute they get the assignment. Are you a sprinter? They work in quick bursts of intense effort. They have very intense concentration. They deliberately wait for the pressure of a deadline, and they use very short, like I said, very intense periods of time to hold their concentration. I'm a sprinter. I know that. I can get things done in a very short period of time because I buckle down and I do that. But I also know exactly when my deadline is, and I usually push it all the way to the deadline. Procrastinators also choose to work at the last minute, like sprinters, but
I have not finished reading our books, Cindy.
I haven't either, but that's okay. They also hate last minute pressure, and they wish they could focus before the deadline looms. The difference between a procrastinator and a sprinter is the procrastinator will try to move the deadline. One of my best friends in the whole wide world, I don't think she ever handed in a paper when we were in college on time. She always had an extension. I don't know how she did it because I could never get an extension, but she always had an extension. She was always doing things later, but that's how she functioned. So those are again, these are hardwired. This is kind of who we are. Overbuyer or underbuyer? Now, the underbuyer, yes.
Can you say what the sprinter was again?
The sprinter works in quick bursts of intense pressure. So they see a deadline and they say, okay, I'm going to take Wednesday morning and I'm going to make this happen in Wednesday morning instead of doing it for the 3 weeks they knew they had it to do. And they literally can get things done because they focus their concentration so intensely in a short period of time. And they see that deadline and they're going to get it in by the deadline, but they just don't start early at all.
They're stressors, aren't they?
What?
I can see them as being really stressed out.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. I don't get stressed out. I'm a sprinter. I pick my time. I know when I need to do it. I get really focused. Don't interrupt me at all. And I can do things. In fact, my roommates when I was in college hated the way I studied. It drove them crazy. Because I can get a lot done in a very short period of time because I can turn on the concentration and just delve into something and like everything around me is gone. So I'm a
You say
sprinter.
that sprinters wait on purpose, whereas procrastinators, it just kind of sneaks up on them.
Yeah, to some degree, I would say that's true. I would say they wait and they pick their time. They're like, I know I have this period of time that right before the deadline and I can get it done. But they don't start the project or whatever it is like a marathoner does. Marathoner, you give them the project, they start it, and they just take forever to do it. A sprinter says, okay, I need it by Tuesday. I might be doing it Monday, but you'll have it by Tuesday because I'll have already in my head planned out, how I'm going to do this. What my best focus time is. And like it's short, intense bursts of focus and concentration. But it's deep. If it's anything like me, it's deep. Like don't even try to talk to me because I can't. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Overbuyer, underbuyer. The underbuyer hates to shop and buy. They often resist buying equipment and services that would help keep them in good health. So they resist anything like, I'm not going to buy a gym membership and I'm not going to buy a bike and I'm not going to do that. But they have to be reminded and they need to remember that spending the money for good health reasons or good habits is worthwhile because they just don't like buying. So even buying vitamins would be hard for them to justify because they're an underbuyer. So they have to kind of be, if it's habit related, they have to be reminded, or they have to somehow get it in, focus on, I don't like to buy and purchase things, but I know this is something that is necessary for health reasons, whether it's vitamins or whatever.
They're generally wealthy.
Could be wealth. It could be they have always lived within a very strict budget, and that's just the way they are. Some people absolutely hate to go shopping.
Me? I hate it.
You do.
I do. I hate it.
And her spouse loved shopping. She didn't necessarily have to buy anything. She just liked to be out there.
Right.
Right. She liked to bargain, but she also just liked being out shopping. And some people just hate to do that. Okay, the overbuyer loves to shop and buy. They tend to overbuy because someday this will come in handy. Especially if it's a bargain, if it's me. Okay? They tend to load up on equipment and services that they imagine will help them keep good habits. So they sometimes don't think through their purchases and have to be reminded that an acquisition isn't enough to establish a good habit. So acquiring the vitamins isn't going to do me any good if I don't take them. Right? Having the exercise bike isn't going to do me any good if I don't get on it. So we like to buy and we like a bargain and all that, but we have to be reminded that we have to use what we bought. A lot of times it's people who they have, they've had gym memberships forever and they never use the gym. They use it for about a week and then they just don't go. So, okay. The next one is simplicity lover and abundance lover. Simplicity lovers are attracted to the idea of less. They love emptiness, bare surfaces. They love few choices. They are overwhelmed with too much noise, too much stuff, too much happening at once. They really don't like the whole gym atmosphere of exercise. They are actually attracted to eliminating things in their lives and simplification of their lives. So they're the ones who are going to organize and get rid of things and simplify. They're not going to do things that overcomplicate their life. The abundance lover is attracted to the idea of more, like a full pantry with many choices. So they never have the feeling of running out. And they always have more than enough of something. So instead of buying one, you buy 5, They like the hustle and bustle and they like to collect things and they like a variety of things. And they're attracted to the idea of adding to whatever they have. They're a little more cluttery. And I would say I'm a cluttery person. I would love to be, I used to be a simplicity and then I lived with Queen of ADHD and it messed with me. It really did. I didn't used to be this way. I don't know.
Question. You talked about the overbuyer. Did I miss it? Did you talk about the underbuyer?
The underbuyer hates to shop. They don't like to shop. And they resist buying equipment. They resist anything that, even though they know something is good for them, they won't do it. Because it might cost money or they just don't like buying and they don't like shopping. And they have to be reminded that spending money for things that may be good for you is a good thing. Because they so hate buying things that they just won't. So they won't buy vitamins even though they're good for them. So it's and I think those are extremes, but I think there are people very much like that.
Terrell, she may have her notes up, so she may not see your hand being up.
Oh, who is it?
Brother Terrell.
Okay, Terrell.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on your words on overbuyer and underbuyer. I am one who, when I see something on Facebook that is really nifty and convenient, you know, they have to know how to get you on Facebook. You know, they have all these ads, advertising, you know, things that help you move furniture, for example. You know, you put these little sliders up under the furniture and this little jack that you use to jack the furniture.
Marcia's going
Yeah.
like this, yeah.
And you know, and I just saw one in regard to like this cleaner that it's an electric brush that extends, and you just, because I, you know, I bend over and clean the tub, you know, pretty much every morning, and it allows you to, you know, clean it without having to bend over, whatever. Those little kind of nifty things, and it seems real convenient. But
I
you know,
need that, Terrell, please.
right. And I have
Ooh, I do too. I
No.
need that.
right, and I when I order, a lot of the times it takes what, two months, a month, because it's coming from China. You know, there's a lot of these little nips, and it just turns me off. And I'm like, you know, I probably can find it in the store. You know, I'll just wait. I'll just, you know, I get the idea of what I would like, and then I guess I need to go to the store and try to find something like that. But I'm really hesitant and buy on Facebook now going forward, because I've had that happen to me where, you know, when their product came, it was missing some things and all that. I'm just like, you know, it's not even worth it.
Well, and that's how they kind of get you, because you might be an overbuyer because that seems reasonable, and
Right.
and that's something I kind of had to train myself. Like I'll look at it, investigate it, and I'll stop myself from immediately buying it.
Right.
I may come back later after I've done some more research, but you just have to say, is this something, maybe I can find it better somewhere else and do a little more shopping instead of immediately getting reeled in. And it's a way of controlling your spending as well, because you can say, okay, I like this item, this tub scrubber. I like this. I would like one. Now, instead of just grabbing that thing, because we all just said, you know, we'd love one, maybe I need to do some research on that before I just grab it up. Maybe I should see what the price really is. If I can find it better somewhere else, and can I find it locally, and can I find it in a store rather than online? And so I've had to really work on that kind of thing myself, because you see something and you go, oh, I need that. Because it makes sense if you see something you need. But then you have to say, do I really need it?
Right.
Do I need it right now? Is it what I really, you know, maybe there's some research. So I tell myself I have to do research before I make purchases. If that helps. It's a way to look at it.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Here, this one cracked me up a little bit, because a finisher and an opener. Now, a finisher loves bringing something to an end. They love when something is complete. They love when things wear out and are broken and they have to buy a new one because it's broken. They like to focus on the ability to complete something. And so whenever they're trying to form new habits, they have to show, they can't form a habit that doesn't show some sort of completion or goal. Okay. So there's someone who, like me, I get a thrill out of dumping like one bottle of something into something else and emptying it and throwing that bottle away. Like that's wonderful to me. I don't want to open the new bottle. I like to get, I will, so I can dump, you know, like if I get vitamins, I'll open it up, and can't have more than one bottle of something sitting there. You have to combine things. Steffi had a lineup of different pain relievers for some reason. I don't know. I said, could we put them all in one bottle? I'm a finisher. We only need one bottle of that. An opener is thrilled in starting a new project. They may have multiple things open. They may be overly optimistic when they consider forming a new habit. So they're always starting something new. Have 3 bags of chips open at the same time. because, hey, I didn't see that bag over there. And this is the woman who wrote the book said her husband's an opener and she's a finisher. And he will have like 3 different packages of one item open in her house. And he knows it drives her crazy. And he'll do that and he'll continue to leave them open. And she'll say, could you just combine them? And he goes, no. I think it was like oatmeal or something. And she said it just drove her crazy. And he did it on purpose, you know, because once she pointed it out, he wasn't going to change it. But that can be a very difficult thing for a finisher who wants that completion. If something's empty, you throw it away. If something's broken, you get a new one. If your shoes are worn out, you get new ones. You know how that works? Okay. An opener doesn't work like that. They like to just open new ones. Just open a new one. Have 10 different shower gels in your shower because you never know what smell you want, right?
Oh, yep, that's Kathy.
I'm just saying, we're not telling on each other because it's just who we are. Okay. Yeah.
I have, my hair. I've never found anything that works for my hair. So instead of buying like 3 different things and trying them all at once, I buy something, use it up, and then I'll buy something else and use it up. I can't stand having all that stuff just there. And like if I like have a tube of lotion or something, I have to get that last bit out of there before I can open up the new one.
My toothpaste was like that today. My toothpaste, it was like, I was working that toothpaste today.
I am the same way. And I'm like that with the toothpaste. So I sit the thing down on the counter and I take my thumb and press every bit of it up to the top. But let me tell you this, my other thing too, when it comes to lotion. So I have dry hands and dry feet. It's just weird. Most of everything else is already moisturized with dry. So I have to use Gold Bonds. I have figured out. And I was the same with Marsha until I figured out that was the lotion for me. When I had the other stuff and it really wasn't work, I was not going to waste it and throw that away. So but even with the Gold Bonds, they don't make the little tube long enough to get in the corners of your lotion. I have learned to take a pot of boiling water and sit my lotion down in there and melt it down to a liquid and pour it into, I bought how you go into Walmart and they have the little section of little tubes and bottles that you can buy and they're empty, like over in their little health and beauty aids. And I will take the melted down lotion. Yep. And yes, I take the melted lotion and pour it into another little, and I've got that's how I carry like hand lotion or whatever. But I will not throw away because there's like 4 ounces left. There's no way that I'm throwing that away. So
okay.
Wait a minute, Damien. So I need to learn that trick with the lotion because I won't buy the pump. I will buy the one where you squirt it, with a cap. I'm stingy about my lotion. I'm like, you and Marcia. I'm like, so tell me that trick. Because I will.
It's just a pot of boiling water, and you sit the bottle down in the boiling water in order to melt the cream from a cream to kind of a liquid, so that you can pour it into a smaller container for you to get the lotion out. I bought one of those little travel size lotion bottles from Walmart. It costs like 98 cents. And so then it becomes my hand lotion because I carry it in my bag. But yeah, you just melt it down into liquid and then you're able to pour it into the other little bottle. And there you go.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
we got places to go tonight. Okay, no, but that's it. Like I am a finisher and I live with an opener. So do you see where that can be conflicting? Because Steffi's an opener and I'm a finisher, and I can't. There are days that and this is what I'm saying. You look at these; they're either or. It's just who you are, and it can get frustrating, right? Okay, moving on because we got places to go tonight. So, how about a familiarity or a novelty lover? So some people really love the familiar. Okay. They have an easier time forming habits when it becomes something that's familiar in their life. Okay. So it's a familiar routine. It's familiar. I like the familiar. I like my routines. I like something that is known to me. I don't like novelty things. Now the novelty lover loves the challenge of forming new habits. Okay. So they like something that's new and different and challenging. But that can be hard because, if it becomes too familiar, that's not challenging enough. So they have to adjust their habit forming new habits, healthy habits. They have to adjust that to make it more thrilling and novel over time. So, okay. Then we have our people who are promotion focused and some who are prevention focused. Our promotion focused people are focused on advancement and achievement and making gains. They want more love. They want more praise. They want more pleasure in their life. Everything's like focused on getting more promotion, better, looking better, somewhat status related. I wouldn't call it all status though. Prevention focus are, okay, I got to fulfill my duties, avoid any losses, and minimize the danger in my life. And they are vigilant against problems and drawbacks. So if they see an area that's going to be a problem or a drawback, they're going to pull back and they're going to figure it out first. So the prevention person is more cautious than the promotion. The promotion person is going to see it more as, I'm going to achieve something if I can accomplish something. Okay. Making sense? Okay. And then big steps and small steps. And the people who are small step people, they keep changes in their lives small and modest. And it's easier for them to stick to new changes that are minimal. So little changes they can handle. They can, and they get burnt out on a big major change in their life. They have a hard time with huge changes in their lives unless they can break it down into small steps, because small steps are things that they can handle in their lives. The big step person, they love big changes because it causes excitement and energy, and it really flows. They get into the big changes. If they lose that energy and excitement, if they have the energy or an excitement, it causes them to keep interest in something, and they avoid losing their focus. They have less stress because big steps don't bother them like the small step people. And if the changes are too small, they see the changes as too insignificant to maintain. So they're the people who need big changes in their life. Like one day I'm going to just totally flip and become a vegetarian, whereas someone else may do it progressively. Mm-hmm. So if the change is too slow for a big step person, they'll just drop it because it's too slow. Okay. So do all those make sense before we move on?
Yep.
Kind of know where you fall and where your family falls. And I will send these questions. The questions are just, if you're unsure, you can read through the questions and they kind of give you some, what I call self-awareness. Okay. Now we're going to talk about monitoring habits. Okay. It's called, we're getting into the section of the book called The Pillars of Habits. Okay. I'm going to read just this one short piece. Many strategies help us change our habits, and 4 strategies tower above the others: monitoring, foundation, scheduling, and accountability. So those are the four we're going to talk about next: monitoring, foundation, scheduling, and accountability. They're so familiar that it's easy to take them for granted, but they're invaluable. To make the most of the indispensable pillars of habits, we must take into account what we've learned about ourselves from our exercises in self-knowledge, what we just have been through the last week and this week. For instance, the strategy of scheduling works for most people, but not for rebels, which we understand. The strategy of accountability works for most people, and it is essential for obligers. The strategies build on each other. So the first strategy we're going to work on or talk about is monitoring. We manage what we monitor. So monitoring, the strategy of monitoring doesn't require change, but often will lead to change because you see something happening. We manage what we monitor. Self-measurement brings self-awareness, and self-awareness strengthens self-control. I'm going to repeat that. Self-measurement or monitoring brings self-awareness, and self-awareness strengthens self-control. Makes sense. Specific habits are easy to monitor, but vague resolutions are really hard to monitor. So people who do the New Year's resolutions, sometimes they're so vague, you can't monitor whether you're making progress or not. And if you make a vague resolution to yourself, you're going to have a hard time monitoring whether you're making progress. But if you say specifically, I'm going to exercise, so the difference would be, I'm going to exercise more. More than what? But if you say, I'm going to make sure that I exercise 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's a monitoring measurement thing. You can measure it so you can monitor it. So if you want something to count in your life, you have to figure out a way to count it. So think about it that way. If I want it to count, if I want it to matter, I have to find a way to count it and make sure I'm doing it, okay? Most of the time when we say, oh, I want to make some changes in my life, we guess. We guess that we're eating better, or we guess that we're eating more fruits and vegetables or less calories or whatever. But when we guess, we are wildly inaccurate. And most of us have seen that happen, because when we do have to monitor, we realize how wrong we were. We tend to underestimate what we eat and overestimate what we exercise. I mean, we do. Think about it. I do. Accurate monitoring helps determine whether a habit is worth the time, worth the money, and the energy it consumes. So for you to feel like there's value, you have to accurately monitor whether the habit you're trying to form is worth your time, your money, and your energy. Now, there's a gentleman named Aaron Beck, and he's the founder of Cognitive Behavior Therapy. And he says, people find it easy to notice what their partners are doing wrong, but not what they do right. Okay? So they're more like, if you're in a relationship, you're more likely to look at your partner and see what they do wrong, but not see what they do right. Okay? So he suggests, and one of the things he talks about is a marriage diary to track the partner's considerate behavior. And when he does this with therapy, he's found that one of the studies he's done show that 70% of couples using the tracking of a marriage diary to track what their partner does that's considerate, they found that it improved their relationship 70%. Okay. Because they were, instead of saying, this is what I see them do wrong, they literally sat down and had a diary and they wrote down, oh, they got me a drink with ice in it today without me asking. They cooked dinner. They did that. So, and then the sharing of what and realizing what the person was doing right kind of took the focus off of everything that was wrong. Because we as humans have a tendency to look at what the person is always doing wrong instead of right. We do that with ourselves as well. Okay, so monitoring by journaling and a diary is always going to give you a better snapshot of what's really happening than just saying, well, I'm eating better. Why aren't I losing weight? Are you really? Write it down and let's see. So monitoring can be time consuming and tiresome. So you have to be really committed to monitoring and tracking those aspects of your life that really matter and that you really want to change. Okay, so you don't want to monitor every little aspect of your life. You want to pick, okay, what is it I need to monitor? What do I want to change? So let's take, for example, eating and exercise. Okay, whether it's for our health or our vanity, we want to monitor eating and exercise. If we eat and drink more healthfully and then keep a journal of it, we can see if we really are accomplishing it the way we thought, okay? Studies show that those who diary daily lost twice as much as those who did it once a week or not at all. So if you daily are writing down, but you might want to say, okay, I don't want to do exercise right now. I just want to focus on eating. So don't overwhelm yourself with too much monitoring. So let's say you feel like you're doing good with your food intake. So a lot of people wear pedometers, or like me, I have a little fitness watch, and it tells me. Before I ever had one of these, I thought I walked a lot. I thought I did so much. And most people do. Most people look at the pedometers and they go, oh no, I don't need a pedometer to tell me I walk too much. I'm tired at the end of the day. Well, what they find out is that they're not walking as much as they think they are. They think they're doing a whole lot more than they really are. And it also, if you set a goal on these, so if you set a goal of, I want to get 10,000 steps a day, it is more likely to cause you to get up and move because you're setting a goal and you're trying to attain it. Now, if you realize by monitoring yourself that that's too big of a goal, you'll set a little lower goal. My goal is not 10,000 steps a day. It is not. I set a goal that I don't reach every day, but I at least have a goal, okay? And people with a pedometer or something are more likely to move, and they will increase to some degree, okay? And any increase is better than nothing at all. Know that. Now, my little guy will actually yell at me if I sit for an hour. It will say, please get up and move. And because then I'll know I've sat there for an hour and I need to just get up and stretch and move. And that's helpful. Now, some people don't like that kind of thing. The other thing is, like with food, gauging your servings. We are a very poor judge of how much we eat. We actually have a tendency to eat 20% larger than the actual suggested serving without even realizing it. So 20% more than what the actual serving is supposed to be of anything is what we normally do on a regular basis. We can eat more than what the actual serving of anything is, but we don't pay any attention to it because we're not monitoring it. Now, there's a couple little tricks. Eating directly from any container makes it impossible to monitor how much you're eating. So if you're eating from a bag of chips, you can't monitor what you're eating. If you take from that bag of chips and dump a little bit out, put the bag away, you can monitor a serving. So there's the difference, especially when it comes to snacks and stuff like that. Also, and some of this has to do with how we package things and how we purchase things. We always think it's easier if we buy a bigger package of something, and that way I don't have to buy it as frequently. Well, the bigger the package, the more we eat or the more we use because we have it. So don't buy the bigger packages, buy smaller packages. One way to monitor, and I thought, oh my God, this would almost be embarrassing, but they suggest this, is to save the evidence of what you've eaten all day. And at the end of the day, look at everything you've eaten and drank. So all your wrappers, oh, look at Marcia, all your wrappers, all your bags, all your everything, save it. And at the end of the day, take a good look at it and see what you've really eaten. Now, for those of us who are working from home, that's a dangerous thing. It really is, because I'll walk through the kitchen and grab something and just keep going. And I shouldn't do that. But if I keep the wrappers and I see that and I say, oh, maybe that would give me the enticement I need to do better. Also, context matters. People have a tendency, and I didn't know this is a marketing strategy. People have a tendency to avoid the smallest and the largest containers of anything. So companies have a tendency to eliminate the smallest and bump up another size to the biggest. So, for example, let's look at Starbucks. So Starbucks has 3 sizes. Well, what the suggestion is Starbucks would eliminate the smallest size, add another large size. So now you're actually drinking the medium. And then they've added a large. And the medium is actually the original large. And that companies have a tendency to do that because they like to eliminate the largest and the smallest. So they're bumping it up. Yes, Terrell, take a picture of what you're eating. Take a picture of what you're eating and just look at that and say, oh my gosh. Another one is no seconds. You put on your plate what you eat, period. And no thirds, Mother Trout. Because I know, like today, I cooked a roast, I pulled pork, and I was like, oh, no seconds, no thirds, because that's what we do, because we like what we're eating. So take what you mean to eat and don't refill your plate. You can always have it later. Leftovers are fine. Don't take smaller servings because you're monitoring and then go back for seconds and say to yourself, oh, I ate a smaller serving so I can have a second or a third. See, these people have got this figured out here. Yeah. Don't say, oh, I only had, this much, so I can have a little bit more because I took a smaller serving, because that's how we get caught up in eating more. Now, this is one that I didn't know. They said you should weigh yourself every day because it's actually better to weigh yourself every day than weekly, because there is that fluctuation in your weight and you need to be aware of that, okay? And also, on a side note, your weight is the highest on a Sunday and the lowest on a Friday. You want to guess what that one is? We eat more on the weekends. Think about it. Do you not eat like I do? And then
Sunday dinner is big.
right? And so I always thought, well, I'll weigh myself Monday morning. Well, that's probably not a good idea because I would get frustrated. But according to this, if you weigh yourself every day, you'll see the fluctuations and that will motivate you because you'll see, you know, oh, I've gone down a pound, up a pound, but you'll see something happening and it'll be more motivating. Okay, how about mood and sleep monitoring? Now, this is something we don't always talk about, but sleep is crucial for good mental and physical health, and it is the body's time for repair and regulation. If you don't sleep well, it will start to wear on you. Now, we all have different sleep patterns. My daughter says I am the weirdest sleeping person in the world because and my little watchy thing here, I wish I could have you all here and I could show you. It tells me when I'm in deep, it'll show me my sleep pattern from the night before. It'll show me light sleep, deep sleep, and when I'm awake. And honestly, there are times when I think, oh, I didn't sleep good at all. And I had some really good deep sleep, but most of my night was light sleep. And that's when I don't feel as well in the morning. Other nights, you know, I see how I wake up and I go to sleep and I do a lot of waking and rolling, and I'll see, you know, where I get up in the middle of the night. Comes with age, I think, but I don't like it. So, but it's necessary for us to get the proper amount of sleep, not too much and not too little. Okay. People who say that they have trained themselves to get by on minimal sleep are actually impaired. They are actually impaired. And I'm going to read something here because I read it and I thought, oh, man. She was looking at, you know, her own sleep cycle when she started talking to someone. And it's, I'm just real quickly. On a flight to San Francisco, I saw with my own eyes the evidence of people's sleep deprivation. At midday, many passengers were fast asleep, not dozing, but completely zonked out. I mentioned this to a friend and he bragged, oh, I always sleep on planes. I can fall asleep anywhere, anytime. Maybe you're chronically underslept, I suggested. It took all of my strength not to launch into a lecture on the importance of sleep. No, I'm not, he said. I've learned to adjust to very little sleep. If you sit still for 10 minutes in a quiet room, I asked, can you fall asleep? Yes. Are you dragged out of a sound sleep by the alarm every morning? Is there any other way to wake up? Do you depend on caffeine and sugar to give you energy spikes? Sure. Do you feel too tired at night to do anything but watch TV or surf the internet? Well, what else would I do? Do you binge sleep on weekends by sleeping in very late or taking lots of naps? Of course. Do you see where he didn't have a clue that he was actually sleep deprived, but everything in his behavior pointed directly at being sleep deprived because he couldn't function without assistance somehow. One of the things we're really, some people are very good at and some are not, and that is setting a specific bedtime, because we have a tendency to say, well, I'll go to sleep when I'm sleepy and then I'll get the proper amount of sleep, instead of saying, I'm going to set a time to go to sleep, shut off the TV, go to sleep, get up at a certain time, and that's good for me. If you try I'll go to bed when I'm sleepy, what you have a tendency to do is start to get like restless and tired, but you're trying to convince yourself you're not tired, and you get into a weird cycle of being exhausted, but not going to bed when you should. So sleep is one of those things that we really need that time to get our mental health, our physical health, kind of get everything in a healing mode. So sleep is extremely important. Time management. Okay, if I go quickly, we can get through all this. Time management. If you feel like you're having issues with time management, there are 2 daily time logs that you can get, Time Jot or Hours Tracker, and see exactly what you're spending your time on. It'll help you start to be more efficient with your time. Spending was another way of monitoring. And I read this and I thought, oh, we've spent time on spending. Elder Marcia took us through, budgeting, cut spending, pay your bills on time, and make sure you're aware of all the disguised expenditures and how you're spending your money and doing all that. So that's another way we know we should be monitoring that. Okay, the term moderation. The term moderation implies reasonableness and restraint, but is such a relative term because moderation in compared to what? What is that? So what moderation may have been 200 years ago is not moderation today. So using, well, I do it in moderation actually makes no sense. So the term moderation is one of those tricks we try to pull on ourselves psychologically to say we're doing better than we think we are. Now, if we relate monitoring to our tendencies, the upholder likes watching progress and getting credit for accomplishments. So monitoring makes sense to them. The questioners love getting information and they use it to shape their habits. The obligers, if the team feature of any activity is available, it keeps them accountable because they have others to be accountable to. So monitoring works as long as there is a team effort happening. And the rebels, they'll monitor if they want to or won't if they don't want to. They're just out there. So monitoring gives an accurate picture of what you're doing and helps you to see what you want to do differently and then try different approaches to doing that. So we actually went through 2 chapters tonight. Do we have any questions about monitoring? That's a lot of information, I know, but we do talk about monitoring our food and our exercise a lot, but there's some other things that anything you want to change in your life that you think is out of control, start monitoring it, journaling it. I mean, we've talked about journaling. Journaling gives you an idea of where you're at with anything.
Monitoring did help with my food intake years ago when I lost weight. One of the many times I went on diet. I've been a yo-yo dieter throughout my whole life, but at least my adult life. And it did work. I had this I can't find this book for nothing, but there was this book that had calorie intake on each thing that on every kind of food that you could think, and they had it grouped in categories. And I would write down what I ate and monitor it. And I also lost a lot of weight. I used to think, after I got my calorie goal for the day, I would think, well, man, I'm still hungry. I need more. I'm at my limit today. That's not right. But ideally, it was away from the monitoring and writing down what I ate. I was so good with the points thing or whatever, or how much calories rather it was worth, not points, calories, that I would just write it down, not even write the number because I knew what I've eaten, but I would look at it like, okay, you're done for the day. So that, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot all about that, gotten off track with that. So that's a good thing to start back doing is writing down what I eat, and that taking pictures is a good thing. That Terrell mentioned. Yeah, so that's yeah.
Well, and then knowing that what a serving is, we have seen this time and again. We think a serving is much larger than it really is, and Mother Trout's, 1, 2, 3 servings. Because, if it's something you really like, it's hard to say no to it. It is. It is. And you either take a bigger serving, or you go back for thirds, and you shouldn't. So some of that is just being aware and not mindlessly putting extra food on your plate. I grew up in a very large family, and the rule was, and it was kind of an unwritten rule, put on your plate what you want to eat, because the next time it gets passed around, there might not be any. Because I had brothers and they ate a lot. And so if I wanted a certain amount of something, I had to take it the first time around, or I wasn't going to get it. I take my food very seriously. So I have a tendency to give myself more of something I really like, because I'm afraid, and it's all this training from when I was a kid, because it might not be second time around, the table might not be any, and I might miss out. I got to get myself not thinking that way anymore. But once I realized that that's what I was doing, because, if it was something good, like macaroni and cheese, I like macaroni and cheese, so I would take more of that than the Brussels sprouts, because it might not be any macaroni and cheese when I want some later. So, and you think about, well, I don't need to do that anymore. And even restaurants will give you more food than you need. I have found that a Chinese restaurant, I can take what's considered one meal and break it into 3 when I do takeout. I can do that with some Mexican restaurants as well. Take what they consider one meal, it becomes 3 for me, because that's one meal. I mean, that's a lot of food. Any other insights or questions? I like the idea, Terrell, of taking the picture of the food. Take a picture of the evidence and then say, I gotta do something about that. How about anything, the distinctions? Even our relationships with the marriage diaries, if we are journaling, if we're focusing on a relationship that's not working very well, if we say, well, they're doing all these things wrong, well, maybe we need to just shift our focus a little bit on what are the good things they're doing. Anything else? Marcia? Context matters, so don't buy the largest Starbucks.
And see, now they got this Trinity size. The Trinity is bigger than the Venti. So you have the Trinity, the Venti, the Grande, and the tall. So yeah, I know all about them upsize.
Yeah. See, marketing ads and all of that they'll get us every time. We fall for it because we don't stop and think about it. Anything? Nothing? No questions? No. This is not new information. We know it, but it's good to kind of review it.
So this basically is showing you what type of person you are and what you have to do for that type of person to establish a certain habit. That's kind of how I'm seeing all these things.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of
everything is not going to work for everybody because they're different types.
Right. A lot of books that tell you how to change your habits just say this is how you change your habits, without considering that we're all real different people. What works for me doesn't work for you. And so she focuses a lot on the beginning of know who you are and just accept that there are some basic traits that you have and some things about yourself that are just who you are. So it would be useless for a lark like me to want to exercise at midnight at night. That's silly. But there are people who will say, "Oh no, I don't know," and they'll try to fit a new habit or something into their life at the wrong time of day, or they'll try to do something that just doesn't make sense for who they are, instead of taking a good look at who I am and how do I best fit a new habit into my life. Do I like to do things little steps at a time, or do I like one big change in my life? You know, I need to know that before I jump off and say, I'm going to do this now. And I like little incremental changes, because that's not going to work for me. So a lot of it is self-knowledge, knowing who you are and how you function. And then, okay, then let's monitor. So the first step is know who you are. And now let's talk about monitoring. How do you monitor what it is you might want to change in your life? And get a good look at it and say, okay, do I really move as much as I think I do? You know, this little watch thing cost me like 25 bucks. $25. And it tells me a lot of good information. It tells me a lot of good information. It also prods me to get up and move when I have been sitting for too long. And I hate it when it tells me I haven't moved enough in a day. But now I know, like, I don't even have to look at it. And I know when I haven't moved enough in a day, because I can feel it. So that makes a difference too. It's self-monitoring. Anything else? I'm hoping that some of this, and I don't know, First G, if you want to, is some of this carrying over into the health and wellness group?
A lot of it is, which is great, especially the journaling part. We talked about that, and the nutritional part. Yeah, a lot of what you said tonight piggybacks off of what we've been talking about.
Okay, good. Good. I'm glad, because I think that, the more we talk about some of these things, the more they are at the forefront of our minds, and we can make some changes that are good for us. And I know that, you know, when you have more than one platform that you're doing something on, it makes things make more sense. I don't want to contradict, but.
Absolutely, and thank you.
Well, and these are recorded as well. So if somebody misses this, you know, come back and you know, have them, if there's questions that they have them watch it. I don't